Okay, so we're going to give it a couple of more minutes and then start. Uh, Pretty good attendance so far. We have over 70 people online. I will let you know who our special guest is this morning or this afternoon. Um, our presenter is Corey Pops. Corey has worked in Ontario government since 2017 in various enforcement positions with parks and tourism, with corrections, and currently he is an enforcement officer at MTO. Corey has been involved in many operations designed to target road safety. Welcome, Corey. Our OFA and our county federations, we do a lot of work to raise awareness about the safe driving for the general public, how to safely operate their vehicles and better understand the challenges of our equipment when they're traveling in our farming communities. But we also want to ensure that our members, our farm business operators, understand their obligations when they're driving their equipment on the highway as well. So I will just keep adding people as they pop on. But Corey, I'd like to hand it over to you and welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Ian was saying, my name is Corey. I'm a transportation enforcement officer with the Ministry of Transportation. I'm also part of the outreach and engagement committee. And today we're going to be covering road safety. But first, I'd like to thank Joanne and the Ontario Federation of Agriculture for having us today. It is both an honor and a privilege to be talking to all of you today. In my day-to-day work, I spend a lot of time on the road conducting inspections, ensuring that the heavy vehicles are moving across our province are safe for our infrastructure and for the families sharing these same highways. But also, I'm a father, and like many of you, I value rural communities and that keeping Ontario moving forward in a safe direction. So the relationship between the MTO and the agricultural sector is a vital one. We recognize that during planting and harvest seasons, your office may extend into public highways. So our goal is to create red tape. Isn't to create red tape for the sake of it, and it's to ensure that every self-propelled implement of husbandry and every grain truck that gets from the field to the gate and back home again without incident. So today we're going to be going through some jargon, hopefully clear up some questions many of you folks might have. We'll talk about the real-world application of self-propelled implements of husbandry, designations, the importance of visible slow-moving vehicle signs, and how a few minutes of a pre-trip inspection can prevent a lifetime of consequences. Through the presentation, I ask that you keep your questions till the end. Some of your answers may be answered by the next slide, as well as it helps with the flow of the presentation. So now we can look into how we can work together to keep Ontario's rural roads safe for everybody. Just 1 second, everybody. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
That's perfect.
Perfect. So again, we're going to be going over road safety in the agricultural industry. Okay, so the main legislation that we're going to be dealing with is obviously the Highway Traffic Act. It's a large piece of legislation with lots of regulations. It's a lot to go through. So today we're going to hopefully get through it and get a better understanding of how that applies to all you fine folks. Okay. So obviously in Ontario, trucking and commercial vehicles are a regulated industry and subject to routine and inspections. And compliance checks are.
Corey, you've muted yourself.
I'm sorry, that was me. I was admitting someone and then it went in and it was right over your mute button.
You need to unmute yourself, Corey.
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Bueller?
Sorry.
It's all good. No worries.
It's my fault.
It's all good. All right. So I'll just start from the top because I don't know when I got muted. So, and obviously in Ontario, truck and commercial vehicles are in a regulated industry and subject to routine inspections and compliance checks as part of the MTO road safety strategy. Farm vehicles are also subject to Highway Traffic Act and other regulations which promote road user safety. So frequently farm vehicles fall into categories of commercial motor vehicles and have additional safety requirements to them. So today it is very super important to get key definitions out of the way and making sure that there's no contradictions between personal like actual legislation keywords and like people day-to-day use and terms. So a couple of the definitions we'll be covering today is the first one is highway. There's no distinction between a provincial highway, municipal highway, or country county road, side road, gravel, or dirt road. These are all considered highways. So if you ever read a legislation and it says highway, it's essentially any road in Ontario. It also includes common and public highways, streets, avenue, parkways, driveway, square, place, bridge, viaduct, or trestle, attended for or used by the public for the passage of vehicles, and includes areas between lateral property lines thereof. Also, there's been some new legislation out now for those farm folks that do snow removal in the winter. Stunt drives can be applied to parking lots now, so that's just something that you can to be mindful of. Vehicles are motor vehicles, trailers, traction engines, farm tractor, road building machine, and any vehicle drawn, propelled, or driven by any kind of power, including a muscle power. So a trailer is technically a vehicle. Okay. So getting into some farm tractors. So obviously a farm tractor is self-propelled vehicle. It's designated use primary as a farm implemented for drawing plows, moving machines, and other implement of husbandry. It's not designed or used to carry a load. By that, I mean the load on itself, so on the tractor. So farm tractors and self-propelled implements of husbandry are included in the Criminal Code of Canada, and the definition of a motor vehicle applies to them as well. So it's super important for dangerous driving and impaired driving situations. So a farm tractor, we can skip over this portion. I got some notes here, but we'll go over that after. Okay. So the definition of a commercial motor vehicle, a motor vehicle having a truck or delivery body permanently attached to it. It also includes a tractor used for hauling purpose on a highway. Okay. So obviously whenever you think of a commercial motor vehicle, you'll always think of like a truck tractor, but it can also apply to a pickup truck with certain distinctions to it as well. Okay, so something that a lot of you folks probably use on your day-to-day farming is self-propelled implements of husbandry. So it obviously is a self-propelled vehicle. It's manufactured, designed, redesigned, converted, or reconstructed for specific use in farming. So there's case law that supports how farmers' trucks may qualify as a self-propelled implement of husbandry. Must be significant and specific physical change to the cargo carrying portion of the vehicle. Must have the vehicle of little use except for the specific farming use. It would not be practical to use the vehicle for its original use. So not enough to just, so it's not enough just to install floating or agricultural tires to the vehicle. It's also not enough to remove or weld shut a dump truck tailgate. The vehicle should have the gear ratio change to slow the vehicle from a regular highway speeds. To get a designation from a self-propelled implement husbandry, it still requires insurance, and it's really it's up for the officer's interpretation at roadside to determine that designation. So, like the things stated above, you can't just weld your tailgate shut and say, oh, well, I'm using it for self-propelled implement of husbandry. There's also different criteria that you have to meet in order to get that designation. I will say the permit department in MTO don't willy-nilly give out these designations. It's kind of hard to get those designations from vehicles that have been converted. So your best bet is to contact the permit department and contact your insurance companies on what kind of things that they would like to see to get that designation. But again, like I said, it is still subjugated to the officer at roadside. So it's very super important that it's designated for hauling purposes on a highway cannot be converted to a farm tractor by adding, like, say, a floating agricultural tires or draw semi-trailer wagons. Does not modify the cargo carrying portion of the vehicle and remains a motor vehicle. Okay. All right. So a trailer. So as we stated before, trailers is a vehicle, and it's drawn upon a highway, except for implements of husbandry, another motor vehicle, or a device or apparatus not designed to transport a person or property. So what that means is a wagon only becomes a trailer if it's not drawn by a self-propelled implement of husbandry or a slow-moving vehicle, or if not being used or about to be used to haul for a farm purpose. So implement of husbandry, not a trailer in this situation. Traveling from farm to farm or to and from place of repair. Uh, so a trailer with or without a valid permit in place attached only qualifies as a wagon when being used as one. Not required to cover or remove the plate when drawn by a farm tractor or a slow self-propelled instrument of husbandry. Requires a small, slow-moving vehicle sign on the rear while being used as a wagon. So a trailer can be both a wagon and a trailer. It all depends if it's being pulled by a self-propelled or it's a slow-moving vehicle. So they can be both, but you don't have to cover the plate at the time if you're using the wagon as a trailer, or sorry, the trailer as a wagon, I should say. Okay. So farm use vehicles over 4,500 kilograms. So this is super important. Ontario uses a registered and actual weight of the vehicles to determine numerous safety-related requirements, and which include commercial vehicle operation registration, driver's license class, trip inspections, hours of service, including logbooks, and annual inspections. Generally, commercial motor vehicles that are greater than 4,500 kilograms have these requirements. There may be some exemptions for certain requirements if used for farming purposes, and we're going to go over all those exemptions. Okay. So commercial vehicle operation registration, or better known as a CVOR program. Do you need it? Well, a CVOR is a requirement for commercial vehicles which are registered for more than 4,500 kilograms or have an actual weight of more than 4,500 kilograms. So that means all commercial motor vehicles, even those farm plated, require a CVR if more than 500 or 4,500 kilograms. Passenger vehicles, farm tractors, or self-propelled implements of husbandry do not require a CVR. Boy, that's a real tongue twister, saying that a lot. Farming is not considered for personal purpose, and the truck used for farming may require CVR based on their registered and actual weight. There are some exemptions from the CVR, including small pickup trucks, and that'll be covered on the next slide. So I'm sure many of you folks do use pickup trucks for your farming purposes. So this is some practical information that you can use for that. Pickup truck is exempt from requiring under Section 16, so CVOR, of the HTA if it is being used for personal purposes without compensation and is not carrying or towing a trailer that is carrying commercial cargo or tools or equipment of type normally used for commercial purposes. So again, in this section, a pickup truck means a commercial motor vehicle that has a manufacturer gross vehicle weight rating of 6,500 kilograms or less, and is fitted with either the original box that was installed by the manufacturer, which has not been modified, or a replacement box that duplicates the one that was installed by the manufacturer, which has not been modified. So what does all that mean? So the sticker that's found on the door jamb, oftentimes they have a GVWR, which is a gross vehicle weight rating. So any pickup truck that is below that 6,500 kilograms, it constitutes a pickup truck. Okay, and the other portion of this is that it has to be used for personal. It has to meet all these criteria. It's not just one portion. So the personal use portion is without compensation. Is not carrying or towing a trailer that is carrying commercial cargo or tools or equipment of any type normally used for commercial purposes. Okay, so At any time, if you're using a pickup truck and it meets any of these criteria, say you're bringing it to a gravity lift to sell your grain, that's for compensation. So you would require a CVOR. But if you're just using it to bring Billy or Joanne to their hockey game, and there's no tools in the vehicle, then you would have that exemption. So it's kind of a dual role hat. I know that farmers both use their pickup trucks as farm equipment as well as personal vehicles, but these are some of the things that you have to consider under the legislation when doing so. Okay. So driver's license. Our relevant class for farming are obviously your G class, which is cars and trucks up to 11,000 kilograms, which is the total weight. But the towed vehicles are only up to 4,600 kgs. Now, oftentimes roadside, I do get a lot of people, or a lot of folks, I should say, that believe that having a D class allows them to tow more capacity. It does not. It allows you to have more on the actual power unit. So the truck, you can go over that 11,000, but the towed vehicle can only still be up to 4,600 kgs. So what that means is if I weigh the truck and the trailer is over 4,600, you're violating your class of license. Okay. The A license is trucks of any weight which tows vehicles over 4,600. So that's that A designation that allows you to tow more. A Class D truck is deemed to be a Class G if it is owned or leased by a farmer, used for personal transportation or transportation of farm products, supplies or equipment without compensation to or from a farm, and the truck must be farm plated. Okay. So essentially, what that helps farmers do is that when they're in the active duties of performing farming, they are able to drive a Class D vehicle with just the G class. Okay. This restriction does not apply only to trailers, but any type of towed vehicle, including things like implements and wagons. So, the example could be like towing a gravity wagon behind a pickup truck, or a truck where a single wagon can be close to this weight, and more than one drawn in a trailer will almost always exceed this weight. So just keep that in mind when you are bringing it to a gravity. That is for compensation. So you have to be mindful. You have to have the appropriate license because of the weight restrictions. Okay. I know many folks end up just hiring transport for their gravity lifts, but I do know that some farmers just end up using their wagons, which is technically not allowed. Okay. So driver's licenses, obviously, is a Class A driver's license with an R restriction. For this, you cannot drive a motor vehicle requiring a Class A license. 2 or more trailers are being pulled, and a trailer has air brakes. License holders may also drive Class D and G with an AR license. Okay, so it's essentially a pickup truck with either hydraulic or electric brake trailers. And you can't have more than one trailer. So this is a huge one. I know many folks have their children participate in the farming, which is great, but there is some things that we have to consider when allowing them to do so. So age of driver for self-propelled and farm tractors. Drivers of self-propelled implement of husbandry and farm tractor must be at least 16 years of age if driving on a highway. Drivers less than 16 years of age may only direct across a highway. Now, I know maybe some of you folks are saying, well, my son has been, or my daughter, or my child has been driving for many long years, or time, I should say, and I fully believe that they're competent enough to drive on the highway. So the reasoning is it's not just about operators' ability to safely reach and understand the equipment's controls. The drivers also need to be fully understand the rules of the road, and that means every single aspect of it. Remain clearly focused on operating and equipment and monitoring their surroundings, and anticipate other road users' actions and reactions, maneuvers. It also determined mechanical fitness, maintenance, and overall condition of the equipment being operated. Know what steps to take if an incident occurs. Do I say or refer to an accident, collision? Anytime. Does your child know what to do in appropriate situation like that? Do they know first aid? Not for you, not just for themselves, but for the persons that might be involved. So these are and obviously the other portion is being emotionally able to respond and deal with an incident that may arise. So that is the reason why there is that 16 years of age restriction on roadways. And they're super important because it's, again, like for the things that I've mentioned here, there's just more than just, uh, it's about road safety. Okay, there we go. All right. So daily vehicle inspections. So daily vehicle inspections are to be conducted, and a report is to be completed by each driver. Reports are valid for 24 hours. Driver inspects the vehicle to identify defects as per Schedule 1, Regulation 19907. Minor defects, report and drive. You can drive with a minor defect. Anytime there's a major defect, you have to report it and do not drive until repaired. So a 2-axle or 3-axle truck, bus, or tractor not drawing a trailer, which is primarily used for transporting primary products of a farm, forest, sea, or lake, produced or harvested by the driver or the driver's employer, are exempt. Okay. So the only real time you would be filling out a driver inspection, a daily vehicle inspection, sorry, is if you were bringing your vehicles and trailers to a gravity lift for commercial purposes. Okay. But I will say it is always a great idea to be checking your equipment when going on a roadway. Uh, Even though you are exempt from things, I always think it's good practice to maintain safety at all times. So it doesn't hurt to have a walk around and look around your vehicles when you're going on a roadway. Okay. All right. So hours of service, how does it apply to you folks? So commercial vehicle drivers must maintain record of duty status. So again, a commercial motor vehicle is obviously that registered or actual weight over 4,500, and follow hours of service maximums. So some of those maximums are 10 hours off duty per day, 13 hours driving per day or work shift, 14 hours on duty per day and work shift, and 16 hours elapsed per work shift. Now, per day is 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. A work shift could be, say, you started yesterday at 8 p.m. Well, that work shift would be from 8 p.m. yesterday till 16 hours to the following day. Okay, so the work shift is a 16-hour work shift that goes in between 2 days, whereas a day shift rule is always just 12 to 12. Okay. Typically, electronic logging devices are required with limited exemptions. Uh, I know many folks say, well, I'm just driving my vehicle to sell my stuff over yonder once a year. Why do I have to get an ELD? Well, it is required, and there's some exemptions here. Local exemptions are where rods are not required if you're working within 160-kilometer radius. The start and end of your day are at the same location. You must still follow the hours of service rules, and operator must track your hours. So anytime that you're going beyond that 160, so it's not like a route, it is a diagonal radius. So it would be a radius. So if any time you can go on Google Maps and you can do your home address to wherever you're going, you can right click on your home address and then right click on where you want to go, and you can measure the distance. So you can basically draw a circle around that, and that is the radius that you're allowed to operate without requiring ELDs. So, and again, it's only for when you're doing it for compensation and commercial vehicle purposes, right? So super important that you're following that. It's the main purpose of hours of service is that you're hauling a lot of equipment and a lot of heavy stuff in a bigger vehicle. So if you're going over those hours and you get tired, the likelihood and the destructional capabilities of that vehicle to other passenger vehicles on the road or other commercial vehicles is very high. So that's why it's very super important that you follow those. I know for many of you, ELDs is like, well, again, I'm only using it twice a year. It's an expense. Unfortunately, that's just part of the nature of the business that is required. So hours of service exemptions. So I'll go farther into some exemptions. So the vehicle must be for this exemption, a 2 or 3 axle commercial vehicle or combination of 2 axle commercial vehicles and one axle trailer being used for transport or return after transporting either primary products or supplies and equipment used to produce the primary products of a farm, forest, sea, or lake. So if you are using it strictly for your farming uh, use and not for compensation, you're exempt. Now, obviously, you have to follow the 2 or 3 axle commercial vehicle or a combination of 2 axle commercial vehicle and 1 axle trailer at all times. As soon as you go over those axle limits, you're out and you would need hours of service and an ELD. Okay. Drivers of the vehicles are exempt from hours of service rules while driving under and above the circumstances. So, no maximum on hours worked or driven, and no requirement to maintain rods, ELD, or logbook. On duty, off duty time from these days are still included in drivers' hours of service calculations for days when not exempt. So, what that helps you find folks with, many of you work long hours into the day, into the night. You have large fields that you have to tend to. Harvesting or planting season takes, you want to get as much done as you can as possible. So this is where this kind of plays into that. You're able to, as long as you're conducting yourself on the farm and for farm use, you'll be able to work beyond those hours to do what you specifically need to do. Okay. So I hope that clears up some things about hours of service. Okay. So annual inspections. So periodic mechanical inspection inspected to the National Safety Code Standard 11B, which you can download yourself. You just download National Safety Code Manual. It is the standard 11B.
I don't understand. Like, is she that? Like,
Hello? Awesome. All right. Valid until the 12th month after an inspection required on the truck and any towed trailer, so including livestock trailers, but not towed implements of husbandry. So any implement of husbandry doesn't require an annual inspection. There's 3 paths to requiring an annual inspection, so it's all based on weight over 4,500 kgs. Actually, that's a typo. It's 4,500 and above. So the 3 designations that you can do is you can use the registered gross weight of your vehicle to see if you require annuals, the combined actual weight of the truck and trailer, the combined gross vehicle weight rating, like that sticker on the trailer and the truck, to combine it together. And if any of those 2 are above 4,500 together, you would need annuals. So there are some trucks. And the other thing is too, is like we can also use the actual weight of the trailer, because oftentimes there is no gross vehicle weight rating on a trailer. We can use the actual weight and combine it with the gross vehicle weight rating. And if it's over 4,500, you would require annuals. Okay. But again, self-propelled implements being drawn as trailers do not require annual inspections. But there are exemptions for pickup trucks. Now, you must meet all this criteria. It can't just be one singular part of these exemptions. They have to meet all aspects of it. So a pickup truck and a trailer drawn by a pickup truck are exempt if the pickup truck and any trailer drawn by it is being used for personal purposes without compensation. And the pickup truck and any trailer drawn by it is not carrying commercial cargo or tools or equipment of a type normally used for commercial purposes. The pickup truck means a commercial motor vehicle that has a manufacturer gross vehicle weight rating of 6,500 kgs or less, is fitted with either the original box that was installed by the manufacturer, which has not been modified, or a replacement box that duplicates the one that was installed by the manufacturer, which has not been modified. So you must meet all of these exemptions at any time. So again, like going into the conversation, I know many of you folks do use it both for personal and for commercial purposes. If you were found roadside and you had no tools in it, it was under that 6,500 gross vehicle weight rating, and you just had a little Timmy or a little Susie inside the vehicle and you're going to hockey, you wouldn't need it. But as soon as you have cargo in there for compensation, that's whenever it would become a different story. Okay. So just be mindful of that. Vehicles and trailer weights. So trailer weights, included weight of livestock trailers, are used to determine multiple CMV requirements. So 1360 kg or more trailers must have brakes independent of towing vehicle brakes. 2800 kgs or more weight of the trailer gets added to the weight of the towing vehicle to determine proper registered weight. 4600 kgs or more requires a driver to have a Class A or 40 or AR license. So it's super important to designate that trailers are not wagons. So in the terms of using a wagon by a self-propelled implement of husbandry or a slow-moving vehicle, it would not be considered a trailer. It would be a wagon, so it would be exempt from this. But if you're pulling it by a commercial motor vehicle, then it would require brakes. So electric brakes or hydraulic would be required. Okay, so just keep that in mind as well. Yeah, and obviously the 2800 kgs or more on the trailer is super important because that is when we're actually allowed to use the weight for combination purposes or for registration for annual inspections, stuff like that. Okay, and again, obviously the 4600 kgs requires a higher class of license, so the A or the AR on the trailer. Okay. So now we're going to get into some farm-related requirements. There's quite a few slides on this, so just bear with me. The first one obviously is farm plates. I know that's probably a super common question. So hopefully that we can clear some misconceptions about that. All right. So farm plates are designated to facilitate the operations of a farmer and give them the reduced fee to plate subjects to certain restrictions. They are available for farmers for trucks and highway tractors, which are registered for more than 3,000 kgs. You must earn 7,000 or more gross income from a farming operation. It must be registered with the Farm Registration and Farm Organization Funding Act, unless you're exempt. How about the sneeze? All right. False alarm. These vehicles and towed trailers must be used for farmer personal transportation, on compensated transportation of farm products, supplies, or equipment, or compensated transportation of farm products, supplies, or equipment in September, October, or November. So the permit fees for farm plated vehicles is a result of lobbying government of the basis farmers require commercial vehicles to move equipment, crop inputs, and/or products between farms and market, but only infrequently, so not fair that they pay the same full permit fees as motor carriers who move goods daily as part of the industry. So this is why the fees are heavily reduced as a result. And so it is allowed to haul for hire during peak harvest times, September to November, to help other producers get their products to market without placing unnecessary pressure or burdens on the farmers or the trucking industry. So, for an example, a cash crop / grain producer cannot haul wheat to an elevator for a neighbor during wheat harvest, typically in July. Another example is you cannot purchase farm produce from another producer for resale and haul it using farm plates. So just remember those exemptions only follow through in those months. Okay. All right. Slow moving vehicle signs. So again, a slow moving vehicle sign has certain characteristics that it must follow. The sign must be retroflective and clearly visible, not less than 150 meters. It must be mounted between 0.5 meters and 2.0 meters from the ground. Closest predictable to the center of the vehicle mass and properly oriented. So oftentimes you'll see, at least I see on the roadways, is folks that use their farm tractors as snow plows in the winter for compensation. A lot of times what they do is they don't even put a slow moving vehicle sign on the tractor, or they put it too low and it's hidden by the equipment in the back. That would be a violation. So just be mindful of that if you intend to use it for that purpose. It has to be appropriately oriented so that people can see it. And oftentimes it might get dusty or what have you. So it's always a good idea to look at it every once in a while. Make sure it's clear of any debris or snow whenever you're conducting whatever it is you're using it for. So slow moving vehicles not capable of attaining or sustaining a speed greater than 40 kilometers an hour on a level ground or highway. Farm tractors and self-propelled implements of husbandry, and motor vehicles towing an implement of husbandry all require are constitute slow moving vehicles and require a slow moving sign. Okay. So under the HDA 76.1, no person shall operate a slow-moving vehicle on a highway unless a slow-moving vehicle sign is attached in accordance with the regulations. So again, it has to be mounted in the appropriate area, as well. It also has to meet the requirements of the coloration, as well as the size. Okay. Now, in my experience, I've only seen one ever size of slow-moving vehicle sign. I don't even know if they make them in different sizes, but it is appropriate to make sure that it is the proper sizing. But again, I've never seen one that isn't the proper size yet, so that has to say something. And again, just making sure that it's the rearest most of the trailer, implement of husbandry, or device being towed by the slow-moving vehicle. So it must be able to be at the farthest back so that the people from behind can see it. So some implements do not allow slow-moving signs to be displayed in the center of the vehicle. So, example, manure spreaders. Every effort should be made to attach a slow-moving vehicle sign as close to the center as possible and within minimal or maximal height requirements. Do not put a slow-moving vehicle sign on anything but a slow-moving vehicle as defined by the HDA. So farm tractors and self-propelled implement of husbandry and motor vehicles towing implements of husbandry cannot exceed 40 kilometers an hour on a highway, regardless of the vehicle's maximum attainable speed. So if, say, an MTO officer or an OPP officer are running LiDAR one day and they see you coming down the roadway and you're going 50, you could be subjugated to that charge. Okay. All slow-moving vehicles must properly display a slow-moving vehicle sign at the rearmost vehicle, like I stated, and you cannot put a slow-moving vehicle sign anything other than a slow-moving vehicle. If the slow-moving vehicle is on a trailer, the sign should be covered. So if it is being transported, it needs to be covered, right? Because you're giving off the false illusion that it's a slow-moving vehicle on the roadway when in factuality it's being towed. So just keep that in mind. All right. So vehicle attachments means attachments must be vehicles and trailers, devices, implements, or other objects towed on a highway by a motor vehicle or farm tractor must be two separate means of attachments. So both means must be constructed and attached to ensure the failure of one will not allow to become detached. The most common secondary means of attachment is safety chains or cables in the crisscross orientation. The secondary means must have a braking strength greater than the total weight being drawn. This does not apply to the fifth wheel attachment of the farm tractors, including something directly across the highway. So if you're just going from highway to farmland to farmland over highway, it doesn't apply to you. So what this means in a nutshell is that attachment must be adequate to hold the mass of any load behind it. Means the attachment must be attached so that they are able to remain attached during travel. So a farm tractor 3-point hitch to an implement meets the requirement at 3 separate means of attachment. A fifth wheel coupling device do not require a secondary means of attachment. So just to clarify, like a gooseneck, a ball hitch type trailers, wagons are not fifth wheel couplings and require a secondary means of attachment. Not required if just going across the highway from field to field, like we were saying. Okay. Lamps. Do you or do you not need them? Well, we're going to go over that. So lamps, the strengths in daytime when lighting is required on vehicles is the same as motor vehicles. So lamps must be visible from 150 meters, and the lamps are required 30 minutes before sunset until 30 minutes after sunrise, or when atmospheric conditions do not allow it to be visible at 150 meters or less. So if you're beyond that and there's a blizzard, it the lamps would be required. If not equipped with electrical lighting systems, one lamp to the front and one red lamp to the rear. If equipped with electrical lighting systems, two white or amber headlamps and one red tail lamp. And again, lamps on over-dimensional farm vehicles, which is something quite common that will be on the roadways. So anything exceeding 23 meters in length or exceeding 2.6 meters in width at night require two flashing ambers on the front and two flashing ambers lights on the rear. Anything exceeding 3.8 meters in width throughout the day and night require front and rear flashing ambers and lights. So that's super important. If your tractor is wider than 3.8, doesn't matter what time of day, you do require lamps. You also require one rotating amber lamp mounted on the top, visible from the front and the rear. Escort vehicles front and rear may be a substitute for rotating amber lights at night. If you have the extra bodies and hands in the vehicles, you could theoretically use the escort vehicles and have them on those vehicles rather than setting up lights on your tractor. But that sounds very expensive, and I would just suggest putting a rotating lamp on your tractor. Exceeding 4.8 meters in width throughout the day and night require front and rear flashing amber lights. One rotating lamp mounted on the top, visible from the front and the rear. Escort vehicles front and rear are required at night. So once you get beyond that 4.8 width ratio, your escort vehicles are front and rear at all times at night. And again, night can constitute 30 minutes before sunset as well. So just keep that in mind. So load security. So there is some exemptions. So I'm going to be getting into that because there are certain things that it doesn't apply to farm folk. So just bear with me here. If operating a commercial motor vehicle and all load security requirements under Regulation 36304 apply, there are no exemptions for farm use CMVs. Farm tractors and self-propelled implements of husbandry are not motor vehicles by HDA definition, therefore are not subjugated to load security regulations. All vehicles, including farm tractors and slow self-propelled implements of husbandry, must still be in safe conditions for the road and driven safely on the highway. Includes their load not being in a perilous condition, and no part of the load includes loose fodder and straw, hay, or silage bales able to shift and fall from the vehicle. So what this means in a nutshell is that even though you get that exemption for your self-propelled implement of husbandry to draw things without them being tied down, it is still your responsibility to make sure that it is loaded in a way that it doesn't fall on the roadway, or it can be it shift in movement and fall onto the roadway. You could still be liable for insecure load for that. Okay, so just be mindful of that. So yeah, so just another example, a hay wagon. You're drawing it behind a farm tractor. There's no tie downs required. Pull into a yard and hook the same wagon to a pickup truck. Go back on the road. Still a slow moving vehicle, but requires tie down because they're drawn by a motor vehicle. So you can slap a sign on it as soon as you take it off that self-propelled implement of husbandry and put it on any type of other vehicle. You need to tie it down. Okay. All right. So this is a huge one, unsafe drivers. It's super important. So drivers of farm tractors, SPIH and SMV, and motor vehicles towing farm implements can still be found guilty of careless driving, handheld communication and entertainment devices, so cell phones, dangerous driving, and impaired driving. MTO has the authority to pull over drivers for inspections, vehicle safety, speeding, and driving behavior. So for a while, there was a loophole where farmers or people driving farm tractors did not meet the definition of a commercial motor or a vehicle on roadways, so people were using their cell phones. That is not the case anymore. If you are found on your cell phone while driving a a farm tractor, that is a violation, and it is a pretty hefty one because it's It's a 3-day suspension upon conviction. I believe 4 demerit points, and I believe $690 fine now. So you definitely don't want to get that ticket. Okay. Farmers and farmhands and employees who have a Canadian criminal code driving prohibitions cannot drive farm equipment on any highway. So if you have any sort of drunk driving charges, or for whatever reason you're not allowed to drive under federal regulations, you cannot drive a commercial motor vehicle, or sorry, a farm tractor. Drivers or farmers driving slow self-propelled and slow-moving vehicles and motor vehicles towing farm implements can still be found guilty of careless, like I said, screen handheld, dangerous driving, and impaired. So all moving violations are the same for farm equipment as they are for other vehicles on the highway. Drivers of farm vehicles must follow the normal rules of the road. All travel, moves, turns, and maneuvers must be completed safety due to care and attention, responsible regard for the other highway use. Now, I know in a world that we live in today, I know many folks are in a rush to go nowhere. And you folks have a hard time driving this big machine with lots of stuff in tow, and you're thinking about the safety of yourself and the safety of others, and you're dealing with these people that are, or these folks that are traveling past you because they're tired of being behind you. Okay. It is a dual role responsibility that you only turn into the other lane when it is safe to do so, and it is their responsibility to not pass you at high exceeded speeds to get past you as well. Any vehicle passing on a dotted line on a highway is only allowed to be passing at the speed limit. Okay, so anytime they're exceeding that speed limit, that is considered careless driving. So under Section 130, every person is guilty of an offense of driving carelessly who drives a vehicle or streetcar or on a highway without due care or attention, or without reasonable consideration for other persons using the highway. It also applies to the Criminal Code of Canada, Section 32.13, Paragraph 1 of dangerous operations. Everyone commits an offense who operates or conveys in a manner that, having regard to all of the circumstances, is dangerous to the public. Conveyance means is a motor vehicle, a vessel, on aircraft or railway equipment. Also, it's our responsibilities that vehicles are safe. Under Section 84 of the Highway Traffic Act, no person shall drive or operate or permit the driving or operation upon a highway of a vehicle, a streetcar, or vehicles that in combination of is in a dangerous or unsafe condition. Okay, so you have to make sure your equipment is safe to be on roadways. Now, like we stated before, you are exempt from doing pre-trips, but I highly recommend you're checking over your equipment before you go onto the highway, because you can be still found liable of that if something happens. Okay. Again, I will reiterate that it is dual responsibility for those folks that are on the road or using the road. Unfortunately, you have a job to do, they have a place they have to be. So just try and be mindful as possible when passing over that it is safe to do so. Okay, that is my best recommendation for you. Unfortunately, we can't be everywhere and can't see everything and be everywhere. So it's up to all of us as a collective to make sure that we're operating things on the road safely. Sorry. All right. So again, handheld devices and display screens. It is illegal to drive any motor vehicle, including a farm tractor or self-propelled implement of husbandry, while using a handheld communication device, so a cell phone, or having a display screen visible, so a tablet, laptop, etc. If you need, so the only exemption is that if it's an ELD, because an ELD must be mounted at all times so that you can visually observe your hours of service, so you make sure that you don't go over them. But it has to be mounted in a way that it doesn't take your eye off the road, and it's only being used for that. If you need to make a call or use the device, the vehicle must be off the roadway or lawfully parked, not in motion, and not impeding traffic. Its limited exemptions may apply in some circumstances, such as pressing a button to start and end a call if your cell phone is securely mounted. use of a two-way radio by CMV drivers, so CB radios, but not only in CVR vehicles. Viewing a display related to your vehicle's operations, so GPS diagnostic display, and ELD and mobile data terminals to communicate with dispatchers. So there are some exemptions. Obviously, CVs is a big one. So you folks are working on large areas, so that might be something to look into, so you don't run yourselves into issues with being caught on the roadway with a cell phone. I know many of these new vehicles or self-propelled have GPS and diagnostic stuffs, and they're fully digitized. Those exemptions are in there for you, so you wouldn't get in trouble for that. Okay, so that's a good thing. So just make sure you're not whipping out your cell phone and checking out your socials while you're trying to drive on the highway. Okay, so again, going into the fines associated to handheld devices and display screens, these are going up again. So I think they're set to be increasing these fines again. But distracted driving continues to be top 4 cause of collisions and fatalities across the province. I think at one time it was the leading cause of death for folks 16 to 24. So escalating penalties for improperly using a handheld device or display screen. Your first offense is $500 to $1,000 fine with a 3-day suspension and 3 demerits. Second offense is $500 to $2,000 fine and 7-day license suspension with 6 demerit points. And of course, your third offense is $500 to $3,000 fine plus a 30-day license suspension, 6 demerit points. Subsequent offenses within a 5-year period. So at any time within a 5-year period from your first offense, if you're found again, you will likely get slapped with a $2,000 fine. I know a lot of Crown prosecutors always seek the highest penalty, and obviously it's up to the JP to decide on that, and with aggregating factors and whatnot. But just be known that within a 5-year period, if you get caught once, and you get caught again, you are subjugated to these increased penalties. Okay. And last but not least, we have here a farm guide resource. You can take a snapshot of the QR code. There's also the the hypertext link at the bottom here that will lead you to the page for the farm guide. The farm guide is very useful because it covers a lot of the things that we just spoke about today, and it goes into larger details about the things that we talked about. And if there's something that maybe was missed today that interests you, or we don't get answers today, you might find your answers there. So highly recommend getting that resource farm guide and having a look through it. Okay. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Corey. That's a lot of information.
Yes, and I apologize. It is a lot of information, and I know leaving it to open for conversation now is fully encouraged, and I'm here at your disposal.
Good. Yeah, we spoke earlier. There's a lot of information in the Traffic Act and the regulations. We do also have a French and English version of the MTO Farm Guide on our website. We are very appreciative that MTO updated that, I guess about 3 years ago. It's approaching 1 o'clock, but there are about 4 or 5 questions here. I'd like to see if we can get through these, and then we'll check with people on the phone as well.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, Don asked a question about starting and ending your day at the same location, but still, if you're going over 160-kilometer range, but you're still within your hours of service, what's the requirement for an electronic logging device? And I guess I'll ask that for farm plated vehicles and other commercial vehicles. So
yeah, so as soon as it's for compensation, so if you're doing your day-to-day operations for your farm, seeding or what have you, you're fine. It's only whenever it's for compensation and you're selling your farm product, so bringing it, say, from Ontario to Quebec or whatever, what have you, that's whenever it would be a big issue, right? So if you're just merely doing it for your farm to farm stuff, don't sweat it too much. It's not a big issue.
okay, so your farm equipment is exempt from having the ELD, regardless
That's
of your
correct.
hours and et cetera. Okay.
Yeah, and again, like in the slide, it stated like it has to be for farming purposes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay. Aaron had a question. So you spoke about taking your production to an elevator. If I'm hauling grain from a field to my personal elevator, I could have one on my farm.
hmm
Am I still required to have the daily inspection report, or am I
So
exempt?
again, if you have your own personal gravity, are you selling that grain? Like, is that grain? Is it if your gravity is at your own location,
Right.
and then like I guess there's more portions to this that I guess needs to be answered. Like, are people coming to collect that grain
Well, at a later, I suppose I could have
at a
somebody
later
collect it
date?
later, or I could,
Yeah.
a later date, take it myself to somewhere else,
My,
or
my my interpretation is if you're bringing it to something you don't own, right?
okay, right.
So if you're bringing it to something you own, such as you have your own gravity lift,
Mhm.
then you're fine, because somebody
You're
else
just
is
taking
coming to
it
get
from
it.
farm to farm, right?
That's right. And
Okay,
my interpretation of it is, and I can clarify, but if it's somebody else that's coming to grab it for and buying it from your gravity, then the responsibility would be under them because now they're picking you up for compensation, right?
right. Okay, thank you. We've got quite a few coming in now. Um, so Matt asked a question: is something like a Kubota RTV with a slow-moving vehicle sign clearly displayed, subject to having brake lights and turn signals? So I gather I've got a
So
uh,
it is technically a vehicle, and it's different because there's bylaws for it that specifically speak to this matter. It is technically a vehicle because it's a motor vehicle.
mhm.
You know what I mean? It's operating on a highway, so it would require it to have lights and signals and stuff and whatnot.
So again, I mean, like any vehicle, if I don't have brake lights, if you can still see my hand signals, I'm
Yeah,
signaling my braking and my turning.
yeah.
Um,
And the
and
other
but
thing
you still
portion
have the
too.
requirements about nighttime and lamps, etc.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the other thing is too is a slow moving vehicle sign wouldn't apply because it has the capability of going beyond 40 kilometers an hour.
Uh, so, but because it's a tractor, it's still
So are you
required to
talking
have
like
the
an AT
SMV sign.
like a side by side?
Uh, I'm not sure. RTV, is that a recreational? Maybe Matt could unmute and answer
Yeah, I
that.
think it's a recreational terrain
Okay.
vehicle, if I'm not mistaken. That doesn't constitute a farm tractor or a
No,
self-propelled.
of
That
course it
that
doesn't.
is that's a vehicle.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sorry.
Yep.
I guess to clarify, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
It is a side by side, but it's governed out at less than 40 kilometers an hour or 38 or 40, right around there. It doesn't go any faster than that.
Yeah.
And they are used to travel on the highway between our farms. They don't pull anything. They're not ever in tow. Um,
Yeah.
that's
I, I would
So,
if it if
they currently have brake lights, just
yep,
not signals.
not signals. So in that retrospect, you would just use your hand signaling when turning. Um,
Okay.
and they would only really be required at night because for certain reasons. But yeah, we get this question quite often. My recommendation to you is obviously check your local bylaws because there are certain jurisdictions that do create certain bylaws for this. But if it is under 40 at all times, it is considered a slow moving vehicle.
if it's not
Okay.
capable of going
That's
faster than
correct.
40.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Aaron had clarified in the case of the elevator, it's brought to uh, the personal elevator and stored over the winters, so that isn't a commercial transaction. He still owns the grain.
Yep.
I okay,
Yeah. So again, it's for the purpose of the farm. If you're
sure.
storing it in your, like I say, a grain silo, and that's to dry or what have you, then that would be exempt. It's whenever you're bringing it on a roadway and going a distance down the road, say a couple 100 kilometers or 100 kilometers to go sell it, then that's different,
It's
right?
commercial operation.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Alexander had a question. It sounds like he missed. Wagons pulled by self-propelled implements of husbandry are not covered by the commercial license. Um, uh,
So a trailer is only a wagon if it's being towed by a self-propelled implement of husbandry.
Trailer is only a wagon
Hmm. If it's
when
being
it's
propelled,
when it's
being
pulled by a
pulled by
SPIH or a tractor
that's right.
for farm purposes.
That's right. It has to be
Okay.
a slow, self-propelled implement of husbandry or a slow-moving vehicle.
So I guess further to that, I
Hmm.
had mentioned to you earlier about hauling a commercial trailer with a tractor full of
Hmm.
farm product. You
Hmm.
mentioned you don't have to cover the license plate, but you would have to have an SMV sign. But I guess um, the limiting factor, you mentioned the weights of the trailer. So
Hmm.
I guess I can't imagine a scenario where I'm pulling a semi-trailer and it would probably already exceed the 4,600 kilogram weight, even if it's empty, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
No.
would.
So
Yeah,
there's really no opportunity to pull a large commercial trailer, a very large one, unless you're have an A license and it's then a commercial.
that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you for that. You mentioned earlier, if you are making an SPIH or altering a vehicle for SPIH,
Hmm.
you go to the permit department. So is it easiest to just contact your local MTO enforcement area to find out, or how do you contact that permit department?
So the first thing you want to do is you don't want to go to the HDA and what constitutes a slow-moving vehicle, right?
Right.
So just one moment of indulgence here. We'll pull it up here. Give me a second here. So it's very super important that it meets the self-propelled criteria.
Mhm.
Um, just one second.
So that was the permanent alteration for farm purposes, hard to
Yeah.
put back into the other
So
use.
yeah, and we get this question a lot at the farm shows and stuff. So we get the questions like, "Well, I have a dump truck. How do I turn it into self-propelled?" Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to change the engine to basically gear it down to that it can never go over 40 kilometers an hour. The
Mhm.
second thing you need to do is that dump truck can never, ever, ever dump anything ever again. It needs basically the dump portion needs to be completely welded. The trailer hitch has to be, or the tailgate needs to be welded, and then you put either like a combine to pull things out or pull things in, and it's only being used for farm. Now, again, like I said, they don't willy nilly give out designations of things that are made.
Mhm.
It has to meet the criteria under the HDA, and it's up to the officer roadside to really interpret if it is or not, right?
Mhm.
Also, like license insurancing purposes, they're going to want to see the same thing. So, in order to get it insured, like you obviously still need insurance, so you're going to have to make sure that you're following their criteria. So, I would reach out to your insurance company and see what they're looking for.
As
But
well as the local NTO.
that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You should always be kind of referring to us. Um, second here. So again, a self-propelled implement of husbandry means it's self-propelled vehicle manufactured, designed, redesigned, converted, or constructed for a specific use in farming. That is the key definition of a self-propelled. Okay.
Mhm.
Like I said, if you're going to modify something, it can never do that thing that it used to be able to do again. A dump truck has many purposes, but again, if you've basically taken out of the dump and tilt portion of it, you welded it, you put
Yep.
a combine in it or a
An
gravity,
auger, something to
an
be able to get.
auger. Sorry,
No,
an
it's okay.
auger into it, and you cover it, and it can only put grain in it. And you have to gear down the engine, right? Because that's the other thing, that it has to be geared down so that it can't be like a regular vehicle.
Right.
because it has to be also a slow moving vehicle, which constitutes 40 and under. So
Right.
there's a lot of things that you have to do to get that designation. I know a lot of farmers would just love to buy an old truck and retrofit it into self-propelled,
Mhm.
but you do run into some issues there
Okay.
because there's so many things that you have to do to it that would give it that designations. But you
Okay.
can the MTO permit department, you could contact them, but again, they're not really up for handing out permits willy-nilly from my
Okay.
understanding.
Okay, a few more. It is a little bit after 1 o'clock. Corey, are you fine to answer a few more questions?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm totally free. I've dedicated my whole day to this, so
Okay, so we'll have a couple hours.
yeah, for
And
sure.
if people do have to pop off, we'll if we don't get to all the questions, we'll be happy to get Corey's answers to you. So there's a few more here. If your pickup truck is
Mhm.
pulling a Mennonite commercial trailer for compensation, is CVOR and the daily inspection report required? So I assume that's a farm pickup pulling a Mennonite trailer for compensation.
So
So
keyword,
you're doing a
I, w-
commercial.
I wish I had a picture because I'd like to see what that
I
actually
know.
means. But again, so I guess again I have more questions, right? Is what is the trailer being used for? Did he purchase it and he's just bringing it home, or is he making it, selling it, and transporting it?
It sounds
Right?
like he's delivering it for compensation.
Then yes, it would need all the requirements,
So that's a
CVR,
commercial function. If
right, 100%,
if we
because you're
understand
delivering your
that correctly.
product,
Okay.
right? You're
Yep.
delivering product. It's for compensation. You would need the annuals. You would need your pre-trip. You need the appropriate licensing.
So
You would
basically
need
anything outside of farming that you could hire another commercial driver to do is a
100%.
commercial job. Okay. I
Yeah,
hope we
and I
have
also
that.
recommend it.
Yep, go ahead.
I recommend that a lot to farmers. Like instead of like hauling your own grain, just hire somebody to transport it for you because then you're totally negating all that cost. Now,
Yeah.
who knows with fuel prices and stuff like that? I don't know the ins and out. I'm
That
obviously not
does get a
here.
little tricky in some rural
Yeah,
areas when there's, a lot of demand
yeah,
for commercial haulage
yeah,
at the same time. So, but
yeah. It is an
understandable.
option.
Okay. Um, are there any ways for tractors that are capable of doing well over 40 kilometers an hour to do so legally? So I guess the answer to that is no, because by definition, a farm tractor has to have an SMV sign, therefore it has to only travel at 40. Is that right?
So the farm tractor and what the designation is means a self-propelled vehicle designed and used primarily as a farm implement for drawing plows, mowing machines, and other implements of
Mhm.
husbandry, and not designated to use for carry loads. That is the definition of it. Now, if we go to the farm guide, which is taking a
Mhm.
quick second to load here. Sorry, my apologies. If we go to reflective signs, as soon as you're going over 40 kilometers an hour, you have to remove the sign. Okay.
Right.
So a slow moving vehicle are the following vehicles: a farm tractor and self propelled implement of husbandry, vehicles that are not capable of attaining or sustaining speed greater than 40 kilometers per hour on
Mhm.
level ground when operating on the highway, motor vehicles towing an implement of husbandry, and road building machines.
Okay, so a
Oh,
tractor is an SMV, therefore it
yeah,
has to have the sign
yeah,
regardless of how fast it can go.
yeah.
Other implements would need to be, uh, your tractor doesn't have to be governed so it only goes 40, but you are not
No,
allowed to drive it faster than 40, regardless of how fast it can go.
that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, a couple more here, I think. Albert asked, if you're using your farm tractor to deliver empty wagons to a field, what is the maximum number of wagons you're allowed to tow? Well, that's as many as you can handle safely, right?
That's correct. You're governed by your class of license, right?
Right. So a tractor is not limited in the amount of bins or buggies it can haul, but it has to be able to control them all
Well, the other thing
safely.
is too is you run into over length issues, right? So
Mhm.
a combination of vehicles can only be a certain amount of length. So once you start getting into three trailers and a tractor, you're going to be well beyond that 53 or 52 length
So you'd have
cutoff.
requirements for long loads. Over dimension loads, you might have requirements for, but
Yeah.
HTA doesn't limit how many buggies. I just have to comply by the additional
Again,
rules
yeah, you would
and
have
be able to
to.
operate it safely.
But the thing is, too, is like the licensing for is the big thing here too, right? Because with an AR license, if you have an AR, you're only restricted to one trailer,
But this is
right?
the question here is it's a farm tractor, right?
Yeah, it's a farm tractor. Again, it would be something the dual trailer is fine. Three trailer, I will have to get back to you. I think it's only limited to two. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure.
Right.
Because everything here that I'm looking at is for two trailers. A third one, you'd be well over length. And everything that I'm looking at here, like I said, is for two. And I would probably say you'd be well over the length requirements for being on the roadway.
Okay. Margaret has a question. Thanks, Corey. If
Hmm.
you're using your pickup truck to move your grain to the elevator for storage, what license do you require? Do you need a CVOR? If you use your tractor instead to haul the load, are you exempt from the restrictions? I think yes.
So that's a two-part question. I'll try and answer the first one. The first question was, can you use your pickup truck to bring it to your gravity,
No,
your
this is
solo,
to the elevator. Let's say
for
for storage.
compensation?
Let's say it's a commercial elevator. I'm using my pickup to move grain. What
Yeah,
licensing do I require?
you need an air.
So you need a commercial vehicle operator's registration, etc.
Yep,
If I'm
because
using my
you're selling it.
tractor,
Yep.
uh, what are my limits, exemptions, or limits from pulling a bin to a commercial elevator?
Well, see, the thing is here is like that's trying to circumvent the rules so that you're using a tracker. How far of a travel are you going on a
Right.
roadway? At that point you're putting people's lives at risk
Mhm.
by driving a tractor a very long time with a big, very, very big load. Um, I
Okay,
would
so
still say
here's the loop then.
you do require everything because it's still for compensation. It's no longer for farming purposes.
Right.
So
So
regardless, yep.
here's the problem though. I think it says, uh, I can use my farm plated vehicle or my tractor to take farm production from farm to farm.
Hmm.
If that commercial elevator is also a farm, then I'm technically taking it from farm to farm. Am I good to go or
You're selling it though, right?
yeah, well,
That's you're still and I get it. I get it. Farmers are very resourceful. I will give them that. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it is for compensation, and you must follow all the required licensing issues that may
fair
come
enough.
into that. So, I would even say that if if you're found roadside and an MTO officer's observing you going to the gravity lift with the tractor, you probably will be pulled over and subjugated to some scrutiny.
Okay.
Uh,
I
because
did
again,
have a I did have a clarification from Margaret. Again, I suppose this is like the earlier example. She mentioned that she is not taking the production uh, for sale. She's taking it there just for storage. So she doesn't,
okay,
I
so
guess it's stored, it's still hers and it will be sold at a later date. It's still her production. So
yeah,
um, I can use a tractor to just take a harvest load somewhere
yep,
for storage and it's still mine and I'm good to go.
because that would be fall under farming
Just
purposes. Yep,
okay. Thank you.
yep, yep.
It takes me a little time sometimes. All right. Jamie has a question. We're almost done. Thank you. Um, to make sure I properly understand, a pickup truck over 5,000 kilograms,
Hmm.
uh, if with farm plates and used only for personal uh, and my personal farm needs, is a CVOR and ELD not required? So I've got a heavy duty farm pickup truck like
Mhm.
a F350 or 450. It's got
Yep.
farm plates. I can use it for my personal purposes and my farming purposes. Uh, and I'm not sure. Do I need a CVOR because it's over 5,000 kilograms?
So because it's farm plated and you're using it for personal use, the CVOR there is a like I stated in the thing, there
Mhm.
is a slight exemption. You do get that exemption, but obviously once you start using it for commercial purposes, so like selling your grain and whatnot,
Okay.
you get bumped out of it. Now, um, you only get that exemption during the 3 months. The
A paid delivery for other farmers during harvest season is fine. But okay, so it's my farm pickup. It's
Mhm,
5,000 kilograms.
mhm.
It's farm
Oh,
plated.
but the one question is here is, does the gross vehicle weight rating, is it over 6,500? So the sticker that's in the door jam, if that's
What's it
over
registered
65,
as? Okay. So in this case, I'm going to assume the registered weight is 5,000 kilograms, or the actual weight is 5,000. As long as I'm not carrying 1,500 kilograms of weight in it, I'm under 6,500. I don't need a C4.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Again, it all comes down to compensation, right?
Yep.
That's the main thing.
Yep. But again, this was for this example said for my farming or my personal use. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tobin says, sounds like OFA has a good job to do. Uh, has a job to do, sorry. Get legislation changed to accommodate the tractors with 50-kilometer-an-hour transmissions. Um, well, that's a tricky one because I think that would actually go right to the HTA as opposed to just regulations. The slow moving vehicle sign is required for farm tractors.
That's correct.
Because you got to have
Self-propelling.
that sign, you are
Yeah,
required not to drive faster than 40K.
that's correct.
Okay. I have a few more comments to see if there's another. Um, oh, Earlier you had mentioned at the very start definition of a highway, and I think I tried
Mhm.
to answer someone's question. We have another here. It's really saying, are all public roads highways? So you use
Yes.
the term highway, but everyone should think of it meaning every road and the space on the side of the roads. The
Mhm.
roadway itself is the travel portion, but uh, the highway is everything between property lines, bridges, underpasses, any public road, right?
Any public road that anybody can use at any time that is not on private property is considered a highway. I mean, you could even state that some of
Uh,
those roads on private property, but our
yeah.
jurisdiction don't fall into private roads.
But a
So a
gravel
highway,
road,
a gravel road, a back road, a bridge, anything in those sorts is considered a highway. So
a
whenever you're
suburban
reading
roadway. Yep.
yep, whenever
Yep.
you're reading legislation, a highway is just a road.
Right. So yeah, the road allowance is that whole area, including the highway from property line to property, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. I have one quick one here, and thanks for everyone's patience. Denise asks, is is farm plates needed on a pickup truck needed to transport pesticides from a commercial retail to farm? So, with farm plates on my farm pickup, um, I'm allowed to carry a certain amount of pesticides or hazardous materials, right? But there's
Yeah. So
limits, I guess, in the act.
yeah, from there, that would be something completely different. That would be the transportation of dangerous goods,
Mhm.
and I don't think that would associate with farm plates. Again, the use of a farm plate. I can read the legislation here if everybody has time. In order to request farm plates, a farmer will be required to provide one of the four pieces: an accredited farm organization
Mhm.
membership card, a gross farm income exemption certificate, an exemption letter from agricultural, food, rural farm affairs tribunals, a letter from AgriCop, a farmer
Agricorp.
renewing.
Mhm.
Yeah, the use of a plates, a farm plate, trucks, towed trailers may be used for the transportation of farm products, commodities, supplies, equipment, building and maintenance items owned by the farmer. Items include trucking of gravel, rocks, sand, lumber to a farm or use of a farm. A farmer may truck the same items from another farmer anytime during the year, provided the truck is doing for free. A farmer may only charge another farmer for trucking these items during the months of September, October, and November. Farm plated trucks and tow trailers may also be used for the farmer's personal transportation and use, including the movement of personal effects such as household and hobby effects, recreational pleasure use. Their personal privilege only extends to the person or persons who actually own the farm. The privilege does not extend to family members, employees, or other persons. Prohibited use of farm plates. A truck transporting logs, pulpwood, or rocks from a forest, quarry, or mine cannot use farm plates. Farm plates cannot be used for designation of transportation of 10 or more passengers. These vehicles require to be plated as a bus. There's nothing really in terms of pesticides, but again, the specific use of pesticides are not included in there. So
Well,
I
it does
would
say
go ahead.
inputs.
Yeah, I mean it's up for interpretation. Yeah, but even then, like you would be subjugated because you're transporting with dangerous goods. I'd have to look at what the actual chemical or dangerous good that's being hauled. Does it require placards? Does it
Okay,
require an
right.
ERAP? Stuff like that. So I would go ahead and say no, but I don't want to give a definite answer because it's not written specifically in here.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
There's a lot of components to that because it is a dangerous good.
So pesticides, I will say, aren't dangerous goods. So they're just inputs, but
Okay.
it's not hazardous. So, uh,
Okay.
assuming they're not dangerous goods, then it's an input. You may have limits to the amount of pesticides you can take, same way as fuel, whatever. You'd have limits to that, but
Hmm.
as long as it's related to an input for your farm, for sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not something I've ever dealt with, so I'm sorry I couldn't give you a definite answer, but this is everything that's written
Okay.
here is essentially what it's used for.
Okay, Pierre had a question. I may have missed this, but who is responsible for mud on the road from tractors if you're going, from the field to the
Mm,
road? Who's responsible to clear that out? Am I as the
uh,
farmer?
well, we're not supposed to be depositing anything on roadways, so technically the farmer would be responsible.
Okay. Tobin had a question. If you are hit by someone else while operating, when would you be charged or liable? A good
Mm.
example is if you're hit when you're making a left turn.
So and we spoke about this a little bit, Ian,
Hmm.
before we got on. It's a dual responsibility. You cannot turn into another lane until it's safe to do so. That's what it says in the HDA. And another person can't be passing into a lane when it's not safe to do so. So it would be a dual responsibility. Now, I
Right.
will say, oftentimes enough, the person making the unsafe turn is usually the one at fault because you must only turn into a lane when it's safe to do so. But again, it's both will probably end up being charged for that one. That's why I
Right.
really reiterated at the beginning to really make sure that there's nobody behind you. Even stop and let the traffic go first, then turn. Just so you're minimizing that risk, right? It's a
Hmm.
shared highway. We can't control other people, but the one thing we can control is our actions and the vehicles that we control. So again, both can be found liable in that situation.
So be as defensive in your driving as you can be.
That's 100% right. Again, at the end of
Okay.
the day, it's all about safety and making sure everybody goes home safe.
Okay. Thank you. Last question, and this
Sure.
is about ATVs. So, in many instances, I live on Manitoulin Island, and ATVs are often driven at the side of the road or even on the road. Uh,
Hmm.
Somebody here, Pierre, said 20 years ago, I got a ticket for driving down the road with my ATV. Nowadays, it happens all the time. What is the exception? Or are there exemptions for farming or even just anyone driving an ATV on the highway?
Yeah. Again, that really falls down into bylaws and local laws.
Municipal.
Yeah, municipal in nature. I know in Cornwall, where I live, they've completely banned four-wheelers and ATVs on any roadways. So you'd have to look at that proper legislation. My interpretation is that it is considered a vehicle, so it would require all the working components to be
A
on the
motor
roadway.
vehicle, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it is a
Okay.
motor vehicle, right?
Right.
So you
Licensing, insurance, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And
yeah.
and again, depending on the municipality, but on roadways that are under the operation and regulation of MTO, are you allowed? So on a an 80 kilometer kind of county road that's an MTO road, can I drive my ATV or as long as it's licensed, etc.?
So are you driving it on the road specifically or on the shoulder? That's the real question
Let's say the
because
road.
it's on the road, right?
Hmm.
Mm, no, because it doesn't have the appropriate requirements that a vehicle must have while being on a roadway. You know what I mean? So if it had blinking lights and all that
Hmm.
stuff, it would be okay. But again, if you're on the shoulder of the gravel and you're driving, technically that's illegal because you're not allowed to drive on the gravel shoulder of the road. If you're traveling to and fro, like going across highways, that's totally acceptable.
Hmm.
My recommendation to you is look at your local municipal
Right.
bylaws as it comes to ATVs. But under the HDA, it's strictly like it comes down to the requirements of the vehicle being having the requirements that a motor vehicle needs to have to be on a
Sure.
roadway.
Similar to a motorcycle.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Has to have a license plate, has to have brake lights, has to
Insurance,
have insurance,
helmets,
have to have a helmet, everything. Yep.
mirrors. Okay.
Yeah.
That looks like it for now. Again, if people do have more questions and they trickle in, or you can also contact myself or in the case of OFA members, contact your member service representative. We'd be happy to forward any other questions or clarifications on to Corey. I very much appreciate you going through this, Corey. It's a lot of
My pleasure.
information. I think it's something that I feel our members can benefit from frequently just because there's so much information and things change. There's for example, new inspection rulings now and the requirements and the detailed amount of work that goes into safety inspections. It changes all the time. So I very
Yeah.
much appreciate your time, and we'll probably try to force you into doing this again maybe a year from now.
Well, it'll be my pleasure, and thank you so much for
Oh,
having me. It's been a real treat.
I will ask just to be patient, if there's anybody that's on a phone and wasn't able to type in the chat, if you want to just unmute yourself and ask a question, I'd be happy to forward it, and I'll just give you a couple of minutes to see if there is anybody that would like to do that. Sorry, I don't have Muzak to play in the background.
I could sing for you all, but I'm sure you don't want to hear that.
That's good.
So, for anybody who's still on, and for anybody who watches this, I highly recommend checking out the farm guide and reading through it thoroughly to before you reach out for questions, because a lot of those questions are probably going to be answered in that farm guide.
Yes. Okay. That looks like it. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining. Happy to do this again, and thanks a lot, Corey. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Everyone have a safe afternoon and drive defensively.
Take care.